And we're back. Yay. I hope you guys can hear me. And I hope we solved our issue.
That's it.
I'm going to unmute you. It still says you're muted.
How about now?
Okay. No, I can still not hear you. So here, I know. I know. Heartbreak Hotel. Um, it's something to do with Chrome. You know all the updates they've done. So what I'm going to do is try and pull up transcript so I at least can read what you're saying. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think on my feet. Let's do that. And I'm going to turn on. Yeah, I'm having issues. It keeps asking me, are you having issues? And, but you can hear me, right? And everybody else can hear you. It's just I can't hear you. So it's my hardware, even after I reboot it. So we're just going to do it this way. First of all, can you introduce yourself to anybody that might wander back here? Probably dumped a bunch of people off. They're like, "Ugh." So just give the people a little bit of introduction while I play with this.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Again, we apologize for these technical difficulties that we're facing, but thank you for kicking it with us, for hanging out, for pulling up as we engage in this conversation about toxic relationships. My name is Stephen Thurston. I'm here in Chicago, and I happen to pastor the Cove Chicago. That's a church here on the south side of Chicago. I also run Empowered Enterprises, which is a consulting company that focuses on leadership development and relationships and project management. And so change management, all of that type of thing to help organizations, entities to change what's within so that they can change what's around. That's the focus. I'm also the author of a book entitled Mirror Moments. And again, that book is a book that focuses on changing what's within personally, having moments of introspection so that you can change things that are around you. Because the reality is we can't change people. We can only influence them. So as we become better versions of ourselves, hopefully the people that we're connected to, they become better versions of themselves and we all grow together. And so that's a quick snapshot into who I am and what I do. And I'm honored to be in this space, in this place with Dr. C, with Dr. Cheryl.
Okay, thank you. And I'm getting transcripts set up so I can read what you're saying. But the most important thing is I've given an introduction. First of all, thank you for being here and for being willing to share with my listeners. And I'm going to fix the sound issue and I'm going to ask you back real soon. Okay?
Cool.
Because I don't like this. Um, Even though it's a jerry rig, I don't like it because I really wanted to hear what you said.
I got you.
And the most important reason why I asked you here is because of your love of people. And not only do you love people, but you're a realist, but you're deep spiritually and you see people. It's not like you screen people through all your knowledge, which you're very educated, very intelligent, a super stylish person that I admire so much.
Thank you.
And yet, and still, I've seen you be able to relate to what some other people may consider the lowest of the low. And you can still sit in rooms with the kings and the decision makers and the CEOs. And I think you can bring a light in the conversation of what we're talking about. There's a common denominator to all of us finding ourselves in these relationships that don't serve us, don't serve our highest good, and make us miserable people to be around and to be with. So, if you could just tell us what you believe toxic people are, toxic relationships, and some idea of how you think about that issue.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. Thank you for raising this topic, this issue, especially on this day that we deem as Love Day. I'm a sociologist as well.
Mhm.
I don't want people to think, well, he's just a preacher. Why is he on here talking? I study human beings and human behavior. I'm degreed in that space as well. So there's some level of expertise. I hate critics without credentials. So I like putting that out there so
Me
that
too.
people know, you talking to somebody that knows a little bit about what they're talking about. So when we look at this topic of toxic relationships, here's how I define toxic relationships. It's one that's characterized by unhealthy and harmful patterns of behavior, which can negatively impact your emotional, your mental, and even your physical well being. And these behaviors can be subtle and manipulative, or they can be blatant and abusive. And so I don't want us to think that everything is just presented one way. No, there are multiple ways in which we can
Mm.
see this play out. And it's also, Cheryl, important to note that these relationships can exist in any context. It's Valentine's Day, it's Love Day, and I don't want you to think that toxic relationships just fall within this realm of romantic partnerships. No, friendships, family dynamics, even work environments can present toxic relationships. And so you may be saying, all right, Stephen, I got the technical aspect of that, but can you lay the hay where the horses can get to it? Can you make this more palatable for me? So let me give you some key characteristics of toxic relationships. You'll see
Okay.
control and manipulation. One person tries to control the other's thoughts or feelings and actions through various means, such as guilt tripping, threats,
Yes.
isolation. They ghost you. It can involve lying, withholding information, or gaslighting. We can also see it show up with abuse. That's emotional abuse, verbal abuse, or even physical abuse. And this includes using words or actions to belittle people, humiliate them, intimidate them, or harm the other person. Third, we see unhealthy communication. And so in the relationship, there's constant criticism. They ain't never got nothing good to say about you, dogging you out. You were at the Super Bowl party and you end up being the brunt of all the jokes that they told.
No, sir.
Yeah. So there's blame, there's refusing to listen to your perspective or the other person's perspective. Another element, fourth, dishonesty and betrayal, lying, cheating, breaking promises, which damage trust and ultimately leads to an unhealthy environment as it relates to that relationship. Then you can have disrespect and
Mhm.
lack of empathy when they don't value your feelings, your needs, or your boundaries. One sidedness, the relationship feels unbalanced with one
Yeah.
person
Very.
giving much more than they receive. And then finally, unequal power dynamics. One person has excessive control over the other. And we often see this through intimidation, threats. Here's the key piece: financial dependence. They don't want you to work. Oh, you don't got to work. I'm going to take care of you. No, that's to control you. And so
Yeah.
these are some of the signs, these are some of the elements of toxicity that we can see in relationships. So I want you to really examine those and see if that exists within the relationships you exist in. Again, not just romantic relationships, but familial relationships and work relationships.
That's so good. And I can hear you now.
Awesome. All right, perfect.
But I kept the transcript because I like to be ADA compliant. But anyway, everything you just said, when I did the introduction,
Yeah.
Pastor Stephen, that control element and people not understanding it's a diminishing thing. A
Yes.
toxic person is a drain, not a fountain. They don't water you in any way.
Yeah.
And yet, and still, if it's your family member, if it's work and it's a job you need, you can't just, haul
Yeah.
off and quit. Or if it's a marital partner, um, and everything else about the marriage is good, it's just this person has poor relationship skills.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing on this love day. I call it the fake love holiday
Yeah.
because walk in love every day, right?
Every day. Yes.
Every day of your life, you should be exhibiting love. And I find most of us, one, we don't understand we can be toxic too.
Yes. Say that again.
we can be toxic too. We all have toxic behaviors.
Yes.
We all have behaviors that maybe we learned in childhood or um, in work, how we had to show up. We
Yeah.
pick those habits and those behaviors up.
Some is a trauma response.
Trauma response,
Yeah.
definitely. And we're all being traumatized. I think what happened in this country in 2020, we're all collectively traumatized.
Sure.
But here's the big thing. Now that we've talked about it, we've talked about recognizing
Yeah.
when you might be in a toxic relationship. Talk to me a little bit about um, how someone might a make that recognition, take those
Okay.
blinders off,
Okay.
and then some tips you might give if someone were sitting in front of you saying, "Hey, that's me, that's me."
Yes, ma'am. So I want us to pay attention. Hopefully, you all are taking notes because I want you to think about this. And it may not be until after you watch this that the bells and the alarms start ringing as you process this later, as you just become more keen and aware of the relationships and fellowships that you're engaged in. Oh no, they talked about this. I'm starting to see this. So let me give you some red flags so that this will hopefully help you remove the blinders. If you're in a relationship and you're constantly on edge, walking on eggshells around the other person, be mindful. If you've got diminished self esteem and you're doubting your sanity because gaslighting is in place, that's something that you need to take note of. If you feel isolated from friends and family because of the relationship, they limit your exposure to your people. They try to keep you love bomb you and just kind of
Mm,
suffocate you. Oh, because
mm,
I love you. I just want to spend so much time with you. No, they're trying to keep you from people that'll tell you you need to get the hell out of there. That's what's happening.
mm.
When you're
Say that. The classic common denominator in toxic relationships is to isolate you.
yes, yep, separate you from those sources of strength and empowerment. You're constantly being criticized and put down. I mentioned that earlier, but that's a big one. When you have a fear of the other person's anger or reactions, and so you just try to play it safe. I don't want to say anything that might trigger them. That shouldn't be the case all of the time. When you feel pressure to change who you are to please them, you coming outside of yourself, you've lost yourself in the relationship.
Mhm,
That environment is not a healthy environment. When your needs and your boundaries are constantly being disregarded,
mhm.
these are all red flags. That's a toxic environment that you're in. And Cheryl, before I get into like what we can do to help, if you don't mind, I want to tap into how being in these environments impacts us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so if I can break it out from a romantic perspective, a familial perspective, and then a work perspective.
Perfect.
Um,
Please do.
yeah. So yeah, when we're in these places, it can cause low self-esteem and
Mhm,
low self-worth because there's that constant criticism and belittling and negativity that chips away at your confidence and your self-belief, and it makes you doubt yourself and your abilities, which then puts you in a position where you got to lean on them and depend on them, and they become your savior. Anxiety, stress, all of that's created because the unpredictability of the relationship, that hostile environment in this toxic relationship, it creates and it triggers the anxiety and the stress, which impacts you physically and mentally. There's depression and hopelessness that we'll see because you feel trapped, you feel controlled, you feel unsupported, and that leads to feelings of helplessness and despair. And there's a loss of hope for a better future. You can't see beyond this relationship. This is how it's always going to be. And then you
mhm.
make yourself out to be the bad girl or the bad guy. It ain't you, it's them.
Right.
And then, even once you get out of the relationship, you oftentimes can't find healthy relationships unless you get help because there's PTSD that you're now suffering from. You got flashbacks, you got
Mhm.
nightmares, there's hyper vigilance, so you're not trusting people. All of this kicks in. So that's the psychological impact. Then there's the emotional impact. the isolation and the loneliness. We just talked about you being separated from your source of encouragement and supply, because toxic partners often try to isolate you from your support systems, and that'll lead you to a place of loneliness and disconnection. You'll have fear and insecurity because there's the constant threat of anger, criticism, manipulation. And so you're in a constant state of fear, and your body is not made to be in this constant state of fear.
Absolutely not.
You're gonna damage a whole lot of stuff on the inside, because all of that's running, all of those chemicals are just, nah, that's not how you're built to be. And it makes it difficult for you to relax, to trust people, to gain some security. There'll be confusion and doubt, because gaslighting and manipulation, it'll make you question, your sanity and the reality of what's actually happening. And so now you confused. Did that really happen? Am I making all of this up? And you just like, you're literally losing your mind. And then finally, under this emotional impact umbrella, there's anger and resentment. The frustration and the hurt that's caused by the toxic behavior, it can build up over time and lead to feelings of anger and resentments towards your partner and even yourself. And
Mhm.
then finally, there's the interpersonal impact. So there's difficulty forming those healthy relationships,
Yeah.
because these negative patterns that have been learned in this toxic environment make it difficult for you to form healthy and trusting relationships with other people. You
Mhm.
don't trust them because you've been betrayed and you've been manipulated. And so you're thinking everybody's going to do that. I don't want to put myself out there. I can only trust me. So I'm going to stay to myself. But as human beings, we're made to be in relationship and partnership with other people. And so the people that God sends to help us, we shun them and we build walls instead of bridges. And we can't get help because we won't let anybody in. And then there's difficulties with communicating and with setting and maintaining boundaries, because we've witnessed and experienced so much unhealthy communication, so many boundary violations, and it's now hard to communicate effectively and set healthy boundaries in other relationships. And so that's how it's impacting you. And sometimes we don't see that all of this is happening until we're out of it.
Yeah.
And even once we're out of it, until we open ourselves up enough to trust somebody to tell us something's wrong.
Some
You're a
sort.
shell of your former self.
Mm. And that is the fallout from
Yeah.
coexisting in a toxic relationship. You
Yeah.
talked about so many important points. The first thing is the becoming a shell of yourself. Um, you lose even your desire to do things that were once important to you.
Yeah. Stuff that gave you joy and gave you life, that made you you.
Yes, because that cortisol overload that you
Yes.
were talking about, that impact on your body from being in a constant state of alert and hypervigilance, and it is very destructive to the brain.
Yeah.
I can tell you that's why you have brain fog. You can't think, you can't figure things out, and you default. Your behavior then defaults to it's never going to get any better. This is my life. I've got to make do with this person, got to make do with this job. This is my mom. This is my dad. This is my brother. This is my sister.
Yep.
We turn off the boundary
Yes.
and then we build the wall.
Yep.
And
You
then we
preach.
expect someone else to climb over it.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that's
And
what Valentine's Day is doing right now.
yeah.
There are a lot of people with these expectations of if you love me, you would ABCD.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to that person.
That's correct. They're paying a bill for a charge that they didn't create,
Right.
which taps into transference. That's a whole nother conversation we'll
That's
go
a
into
whole
another day.
other show.
Yes.
Whole other show. But you broke that down so well. Thank you.
Yes. So you asked me, how should we best deal with being
Yeah.
in these toxic environments? So let's break it down in those areas. Start with romantic relationships. There's got to be communication. If the relationship is salvageable, and I want to recommend a book for all of the listeners, Necessary Endings. It's an amazing book by Henry Cloud, Necessary Endings, and it helps
I
you to
love
determine,
recommendations.
yeah, if there's false hope or if there's really a reason to hold out for things getting better. Necessary Endings. Get that book, read it today.
Uh,
But Henry Cloud.
Henry Cloud.
Yep. Necessary endings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat.
Perfect. So communication, if the relationship is salvageable, try honest and open communication about your concerns, setting some clear boundaries, and then seeking professional help together, some couples counseling, because you trying to fight this fight on your own, you may not be skilled enough to do it. You may need to bring in an unbiased third party to help both of you navigate healthy conversation to kind of get back on one accord. But you got to remember that your safety and your well-being are paramount in
Yeah.
this situation. So don't expect immediate change to be prepared. Don't expect immediate change and be prepared to end the relationship if there's no improvement. Don't kill yourself. Don't
Don't.
allow somebody else to kill you. And that doesn't have to just be a physical death.
Mhm.
Again, we talked about being a shell of yourself. Don't allow somebody else to kill you. You holding out hope. No, 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 no. If you see this thing ain't working, get out of there. A second aspect in these romantic relationships is
Mhm.
distance and boundaries. Sometimes creating physical and emotional distance is necessary. I know it's your mama, but she's harmful to you. I can't come over for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. I may FaceTime y'all and say, hey, but that's it. You got to set firm boundaries to protect yourself. And that doesn't mean that that boundary always has to exist
Right.
until they learn to respect you and treat you like you need to be treated. The
Mhm.
boundaries are there. And then once you show me that you going to honor me, then maybe we can adjust these boundaries. But limiting contact, moving out the house, getting a separation, that's right.
Yes.
God is not going to get you because you separated from your spouse.
He gives you the grace to stay. He gives you the grace to go.
Amen. Building a support system, building strong friends and family networks around you, getting a therapist who can offer understanding and guidance. This is crucial for your emotional well-being and your decision making as you're kind of navigating this toxic space. Again, if this is a salvageable relationship, and professional help. I know we got some Christians watching, Jesus and a counselor.
Can we be saved and sane?
Yes, yes. And
Be that
sometimes
ready.
you might need medication, and that's okay.
Yes.
Prayer and medication. Your chemical imbalance in your body from all of this stress and trauma, you may need to regulate that, and it's okay. And if you under pastor leader telling you to throw away the medicine, you don't need it, you just need to pray, run away from that church as
Mhm.
quickly as possible. Okay?
Yeah, because
They're idiots.
I
I
know
mean,
that's toxic.
yes, yes. All right, so that's the romantic umbrella. Let's look at the familial umbrella.
Okay.
Again, limited contact. In some
No.
cases, again, reducing or limiting contact with
Mhm.
toxic family members is necessary for your mental health. That don't
Amen.
mean you got to completely ostracize them, but you got to set some healthy boundaries for your interactions. um Setting boundaries where you clearly communicate the boundaries to your family. Hey, this is where I am, this is what my expectations are. You violated this, I'm gonna give you one more try. Maybe you didn't hear me the first time, so I'm letting you know that this was a violation, and I'm going to enforce my boundaries. And so if you violate again, these are going to be the consequences, and you
Right.
sticking to that, being
Right.
very clear about certain behaviors, certain conversations, leaving situations when boundaries are crossed. All of that has to be in place. And then I'll add in this piece called gray rocking. Gray rocking. This is a term
Mhm.
many people probably haven't heard of, and it involves responding with minimal emotion and information. So
Mhm.
avoiding engaging in their drama or their manipulative tactics. And this can be a helpful technique to disengage without escalating the situation. I
Mhm.
know you're a fool, and I'm gonna let you fool out, but I'm not going to allow you to tap into my emotions where I respond. I'm just gonna look at you like you're crazy. Okay, I'm leaving now. You done? I'm out. I holla.
Mhm. I'm an expert at that. I'm,
Yes,
I'm a pro because I'm not going back and forth.
yes, yes. Let's look at the work relationship. When
Okay.
it's a toxic environment, documentation.
Mhm.
Document instances of toxic behavior, the dates, the details, the witnesses. Get your receipts.
Get your
Escalate to HR or higher. File a
Mhm.
EEOC complaint. All of that. Don't let them create a toxic environment that you got to swim in every day and you hate yourself every time you pull up to that office. Some of us don't hate Mondays. We hate the toxic environments that we're showing up to on Mondays.
Absolutely.
Be
Most
clear
of
about
the
that.
job because of the management and the culture and the environment. We
Yeah.
don't quit a job because we hate the work.
Yeah.
We quit it because we hate what it produces
Yeah. That
and that
cultural
hostile
environment.
environment.
Yeah. Listen, you got to communicate clearly to
Mhm.
individuals. Again, the same way you express your boundaries in the familial environment, you have to do that in that work environment and be very clear with what's unacceptable and then outlining the desired changes. This is what you said or did. This is how it made me feel. This is how it's impacted the relationship. And this is what I want you to do about it. But in
Yeah.
all of that, you got to prioritize your safety and engage and avoid engaging in some of the volatile situations that can exist.
I love all of those things. And those are all the things I coach, counsel repeatedly, and have used myself,
Yes.
being a gray rocker or taking things into that gray zone of this is unacceptable. We used to call it detaching.
Yeah.
I don't believe detaching is ever emotional behavior that's healthy, because that leads to repression.
Yeah.
Whereas gray rocking allows you to say, hey, this sucks. I ain't dealing with it. And here's the consequences. Or I tell people, plan your exit. Always
Yes.
have that in your back pocket so that you're not abrupt, so that you don't leave how you want to show up.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people that do the food do that to get you to do the food with,
Right. Yes.
especially family. They're
Yeah.
notorious for this. They know if I cut up like this, oh, Cheryl gonna jump in, and then it's really gonna be fun. So, and then in the workplace, I deal with this so much, dealing with work issues at in what I do for a living. The one thing that I try to get people to understand, there is a time limit to tolerating hostile work environments and toxic work environments. Usually, they say within 7 months, you begin to acquire the stress related behaviors in response to that environment,
Mm,
that then your brain begins to rewire itself to
gotcha.
where you don't even have healthy response mechanisms. You don't think healthy. You can't really even trust yourself. And the most dangerous thing about that behavior is then you're then on the brink of going, what we used to call going postal.
Postal.
That's how people just over explode, and whatever set them off could be the most minute thing,
Yes.
but you've got that long
The buildup.
of dealing with it.
Yep.
So getting out of something that hits you toxic, you guys, if we can't communicate anything else to you besides the tips we're giving you, how to recognize them, these are all healthy. The thing is, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You have to put your own air mask on first.
Yep.
So let's talk about some safe ways to do that. And I want to stress for women and some men, abuse and rejection dysmorphia disorder is deeper in the male female response. When you call someone out, when you put the toxic behavior on blast, women and men take that differently. And it is unsafe to do these things. Sometimes I tell women to get out of something, you have to have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to incrementally leave.
Yes.
And then when you leave, you got to stay gone. And then when you get around that person again, you have to understand this isn't safe. I don't care who they are to you, husband, daddy, mama. Some people do not take rejection or you separating yourself well.
Yeah.
It's just a truth.
Yeah. You're their supply. It's you supply of, and we use this term too loosely, but they're narcissistic personality traits.
Yeah.
Everybody isn't a narcissist. Some people have traits, and before you call somebody a narcissist, recognize that you're not trained and skilled enough to give that diagnosis. So
So
there's a
people
difference
don't do
between,
no work.
yeah, there's a difference between traits and personality disorder. Most of the time, you're seeing the trait, and they need this supply, and you become the supply. And when you take the supply away, they get very angry, very agitated. So I think you laid it out, Dr. Cheryl, having a strategic plan and incrementally removing your hand from the lion's mouth, so that when you are gone, there's no need to go back. And then being very clear that a lot of the individuals that create these toxic environments are very charismatic, and
Oh
they
my
know they
goodness.
know how to touch on that spot to lure you back in and make it seem like it's a safe space, only for you to get back in, and they
Mhm.
go buck wild crazy again, and then begging for your forgiveness. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I just had a quick flashback. No, it's who you are. What's in you will eventually come out of you.
Right,
And human beings cannot consistently behave in a way that's inconsistent with who and what they really are.
right. That's you're not seeing an operation or an imaginary friend. You're seeing who they really are. And
Yes.
I want to drill on that just for a moment because I think when people show you that, like the first hit,
Yeah.
the first cuss out,
Yeah.
the first threat,
Yep.
the first disrespecting you at work in a meeting,
Yep.
that's a ding, 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 ding.
Yes, ma'am. And if I can add to that, if
Mhm.
you accept it, you need to first, before you point the finger at them, ask yourself why it was okay for you to accept it. Not what's wrong with you,
Whew.
but what happened to you. What
Right,
happened to you to make that type of behavior acceptable and okay and something that you would give a pass to? Because
right.
that is not normal human behavior.
It's trauma response.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
you need to unpack what happened to you that led you to receive that and kind of be okay and
Mhm.
sweep it under the rug.
I think that is an important part to understand because as you get out of toxic relationships, which we've all had to,
Yeah.
deuces
Yeah.
and move on. And some of us from extremely volatile and toxic and harmful, some of us from a consistency of just this ain't gonna work, which is a different level.
Yep.
And the most important thing for you to understand is you do play a role in that. Nobody's perfectly innocent. You
That's right.
chose it.
That's right.
And doing what you just said, looking not to beat yourself up, not to condemn yourself, having self compassion, but also realizing there is something in me that attracted
Yes.
this to me,
Yep.
that I signed up for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And until you heal yourself, you'll keep receiving the same type of stuff over and over again. You'll become a plastic surgeon and you'll
Yeah.
put a new face on the same old body.
I said that at the beginning. I was like, you know, when you realize this pattern that you're in the same thing, just with different faces, bodies, places, is you.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yes. Yes. And since it's excuse me, since it's love day, I'll add this for those who are in the dating space. You cannot date higher than your emotional intelligence. So wherever your emotions are, that's going to put the cap on what you're able to date. And so if you look back over your history of who you've dated,
Mhm.
it's literally like an EKG of your emotional health.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're the common denominator in that equation of I always get cheated on. Why? I always get lied to. Why? He always ghosts me. People always disappear on me. What?
Yeah.
Why? And that's a hard thing to handle. So, and so we can wrap up somewhere on time. We got about 10 minutes before we're like over our time. And I want to give people everything. I didn't
Sure.
want to let the sound problem cause us not to have this discussion.
Yeah.
And dating above your emotional IQ, dating while broke, dating while broken is 99% of what's called dating today.
Yeah.
I'm in them streets. I can tell you, most emotionally unhealthy people are the main ones out here dating.
Yeah.
So, how is it when somebody goes, "Hey, it's me," or they get tired? Because usually people won't self-reflect.
Hmm.
That's something me and you do because we're in therapy. We help people. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Most people won't do that. They just go, "I want to fix this so I can get with somebody." It's not a true desire to change. It's like, tell me what I need to know so I can fix this so I
Yeah.
can get with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mean to an end.
Yeah. But and talk to us about that. How do you spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally break out of that and realize, just like the man that stood before Jesus and said, "It's me. That's me."
Yeah.
How how do you recommend somebody when they walk away from the show today?
Hmm.
What are some things you think they should be doing to check in?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I will always start here: find a licensed clinical therapist,
Mm,
because a lot of us have stuff that we don't even recognize that's suppressed and
mm,
buried in us, that's impacting the way that we behave, think, respond, and have that genogram done. If you're not unfamiliar with that, Google it. Have a genogram done. And that's going to help to start unpacking stuff in your family history. Many
mm,
of us don't recognize that stress and trauma can be passed along through our DNA. It's called epigenetic transmission. And when you unpack some of that stuff through the genogram, and your grandmama did this and behaved this particular way, and it skipped over your mama and then hit you, and you recognize that's why I do this or accept this. And so until we deal with root cause analysis, we'll continue to just focus on symptoms. And I don't want to just keep wiping my nose when it runs. I want to discover what's causing my nose to run so that I can
mm,
attack that. And that's why I
mm.
challenge people to engage with a professional, a therapist, to help you to unpack some stuff. And in those sessions, as that conversation gets to going, you're going to say one thing, and it's going to be like, it's going to open up the floodgates. And it's
Yes.
going to be like a black hole, and all of this stuff is going to get dug up, and it's going to hurt, but it's
Yes.
going to heal you.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
want everybody to start in that space. Get you some licensed clinical therapy to help
Mm.
you to unpack and uncover and dig up, unearth some stuff that's happening you're not even aware of.
I say that. That is the most important thing I think we can live. People that find themselves in broken relationships, every area of your life. If you're finding yourself everywhere you look, you have tattered, burnt down relationships issue.
Yep.
And to fix that, you got to find out what mama and them did,
Yeah.
what daddy and them did. There are tests you can take, there are brain scans you can have, especially if you need medication.
Yes.
And some people are walking around unmedicated with bipolar disorder, all kinds of things,
Yes.
functionally depressed,
Yes.
especially if you've been in something bad for a long time.
Yeah.
And these things we're telling you, they're part of your self coaching. They're part of your recognition of you want better, you want more, you want to change. So, the last thing I want you to leave us with is if someone wants help, but they just don't know where to go, do you have some recommendations for us besides the book, which I listed? What are
Yeah.
some things you recommend people do to find a therapist? Number one.
I have another book while it's on my mind, because I know we've got some churchy people that are
Mhm.
probably tuned into this. And here's what I've discovered with a lot of church people: they're emotional midgets, but they're spiritual giants.
Ooh,
and they use spirituality and church to kind of hide and to cover up the emotional stuff that they need to process through. And so there's a great book called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality by Peter Scazzaro. Sczaro or RRO, can't recall, but Peter Scazzaro, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. He actually has a whole series, The Emotionally Healthy Leader, The Emotionally Healthy Church, all of that. Get it all, read it all. It's an amazing piece that really will help people, especially in the spiritual space and the church space, to deal with some stuff instead of using religion as an opiate.
Mm.
There's a network, and it just flew out of my mind because most of our audience is probably of African American descent, that
Mhm.
provides therapists for Black people that are Black people.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a
I'll
blank.
list it. I'll
Okay.
put it in the chat because I are one, and I'm probably in there.
Okay. Yeah. And so tapping into that resource and recognizing that as you're looking for help, the first person that you connect with may not be the person you end up with. You have to shop therapists to make sure it's a good fit, that you feel comfortable, and don't just say, they ain't working out for me, so I'm done with this whole thing. Don't
Right.
do that. Give it another shot, give it another try. Make sure that it's somebody that connects with you. And somebody may be saying, well, why are you suggesting that I get with somebody Black? Not that white therapists are bad at all.
God bless
I know some that are amazing.
you.
However, sometimes you can spend the first 3 or 4 sessions trying to come over the hurdle of cultural competency
Right.
that you never get to the root issue.
Right.
And
Right.
so that's why sometimes we recommend that you find somebody, some skin folk that are your kinfolk, to
That's right.
kind of walk this walk with you.
That is beautiful and so true. And also, I'll add this: you're gonna have to pay them.
Yes.
You're gonna have to pay for this. And
Yes.
how you do that is that $7 latte. Put that aside. Maybe do it 3 days a week.
That's
There's
right.
all kinds of way to pay for therapy.
Yes.
Trust me. You get your hair did, you can pay for therapy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
And
something that we just instituted at my church. I brought in a licensed clinical therapist on our team and made that available not just for the members of the church, but people in the community. And it's on a sliding scale based on income. And I just want to make it accessible for people to get the help that they need.
and does that therapist do virtual?
Yep, she does telehealth as well.
Because less than 2% of therapists are Black. So there's a shortage of us.
Yeah.
And I stay in my lane. I specifically work in church, and, that's my area. But thank you, because we need to stop the stigma around getting help
Yes.
and stop using the Bible to think it's psychology. And pastors need to stop trying to do. I admire and respect you for getting a licensed therapist.
Yes.
Just
There's only so much I can do. And I know when to refer.
That's an important statement. My neighbor has a beautiful motorcycle. Always comes through when I'm on the air or when I'm recording a video or something. It's a great bike, though. Anyway, Pastor Thurston, thank you. I know
Thank
you're
you.
a busy man, taking this time to talk to people. My rebroadcast is normally where people catch this.
Got it.
I will see maybe one or two live, and then it gets 3,000 views.
Got it.
So
As long as the people get the content, that's all we care
yes,
about.
yes, the message and what you shared is so important. And can you tell people how to find you? Somebody
Yeah,
wants you to come
sure thing.
to them.
If you want to find me, you can go to my website, Stephen with the PH, StephenJThurston.com. If you want to connect with the church, we're the Cove Chicago, the COV Chicago.org. You can catch us there. I'm on Instagram at Stephen J. Thurston. And I'm on Facebook as well at Stephen Thurston. My picture's on there, so you'll know it's me.
And tread lightly if you go up in there. He ain't no joke. He's a beast.
Yeah, if you soft and sensitive, you don't want to come on my platforms.
Stay out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling. You don't want that smoke. But thank you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Hope to see, hear, and have you back when there's another subject and we can align the stars and the moon to get you back.
Let's
I
make it
would love
happen.
to have you back.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Hey, everyone. Before I sign off, just want to tell you um, this information that we're sharing is so super important. So many of us are hurting today. We're thinking today, um, why don't I have love in my life? Why isn't there someone there? Or you might have listened to what we said about family being toxic, and you're thinking, I can't do anything about that. Re-listen, take some notes, get the books, talk to someone, and know this: if you are in a toxic relationship, there is hope. You can change, they can change, things can change. And I'm a firm believer in God. All things are possible, but it takes your cooperation. Okay? It takes your cooperation with God to move from where you're at. And I have obsessive relationship programs. I also have getting out or letting go of a toxic relationship programs. You will see these things on my new website very shortly, very soon. And you will be able to take some courses that will assist you in all the things we talked about today, and also with helping yourself. I'm sure call your work doctor. This is the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. I will see you next time. That show is going to be a blast too with TC. Okay? Take care. Have a great rest of your Valentine's Day, Times Day. Bye.